Standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you for joining us. It is not only the first Monday of the month, the first day of the month, but it's a wonderful way to start off everything with our monthly mental health matters. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. It is our monthly mental health matters. Always honored to not just have the excellent company and opportunity to learn, but to see the great work and the continued efforts of all our counselors and Dr. Alexandra Boyd. Thank you so much. I say this every time. I know the service and the sacrifice helping us to facilitate our monthly discussion. So good afternoon to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
All right, and join us equally, Dr. Eric Lamb, Dr. Colleen Brown, together with Stanislaus Raleigh. It's a sign of a healthy society when we can have such an open dialogue and an opportunity to have conversations of this nature where you may get people thinking and talking, but perhaps inquiring, accessing, the resources and realizing how available and how necessary it is to make us healthy. So this month, Dr. Warden?
Yeah, so this month we're looking at suicide prevention. So September was a big month. We talked about Alzheimer's and dementia, but September was also Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And I think suicide has been a particularly hot topic around Cayman as well, as there's been more deaths that have come to our attention recently, not only celebrities and worldwide, but also locally too. So we really appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion today.
I certainly appreciate it, and I recognize, as you shared, how challenging it can be at times, but how important it is. And perhaps for us to appreciate that, we can be there and hopefully sometimes even recognize within ourselves some of the iterations that we may be unfamiliar. Dr. Lam?
Yeah. Well, the Alex Pandon Foundation has actually been doing quite a bit of the community workshops about suicidal ideation and deliberate self-harm prevention and management. So we have been collaborating with the Ministry of Affairs, and Ms. Teresa has been really, really helpful in implementing a series of 5 community workshops in each of the district. And the turnout has actually been really good, and there's a lot of healthy discussion, and there is a lot of some controversial kind of, discussion as well. But that's exactly what we want, to actually understand what our community is kind of thinking related to this kind of quite difficult topics. So, that's what we've been doing.
Dr. Colleen, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you in our studio. It's been a while, but hopefully it'll be continuing going forward.
Thank you. It's been a little bit. Thank you for having me.
All right. With this, particular topic, it is, and I'll ask you to guide me, it is sensitive, it is personal, but it is one that, if we don't discuss, we could be doing a greater disservice, not just to our family or friends or community, but even to ourselves. How would you say to people, parents in particular, and the others who want to maybe start the dialogue, maybe try to get an understanding and reach out to our youth in particular? How would you suggest to us?
I think a lot of times I suggest to parents that they just ask their teens do you know anybody who has thought about hurting themselves? I think a lot of times teens have an easier time talking about issues when they're not talking about something personally with themselves. So therefore, in starting the dialogue that way. And what do you think hurting someone means? What do you think that, somebody hurting themselves will consist of? Were they able to get help? That type of thing, because I think then that way you can start a dialogue and share a lot of really good information where the teen doesn't feel really challenged or feel like they're being really, put against a wall, anything like that, or made to feel like they have to discuss really personal information. But then it also gives them the ability to realize, like, wait, this is something that I can discuss openly.
Okay. Ms. Dallas?
Thanks again for having me on the show again, as always. One of the things that I'm hoping that we can definitely get to today is, as well, because October is raising awareness with bullying and the youth, and there's a real link between suicide in youth and bullying and cyberbullying. We're seeing just skyrocket rates of that, and I'm really passionate about working with parents and working from a family perspective. And when I'm working with parents with children or teens that have mental health concerns, or they're just really not sure how to approach it, that's something that I really hope that we can, again, talk to, because one of the statistics is that 4 out of 5 teens who do end up dying by suicide, they do show warning signs. So there are things that we can respond to. That's really the biggest thing that we need to, I'm hoping that parents or just listeners can take away, is that there are warning signs, there are things we can do, and just it's about raising your awareness and education so you feel more prepared and knowing that you can do something about it.
4 to 5, think about it, something. We go to a physician because this thing was bugging us before. We realize that, and sometimes we ignore it. But in this instance, sometimes, I didn't know. If we know what to look for as parents, as teachers, as family, friends, co-workers, we could see that maybe we can get to that point too. Dr. Barton?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of fear that surrounds suicide and a lot of stigma as well. Especially in Cayman, we get a lot of the religious crossover as well, which makes it difficult a lot of times for parents to talk about it because it ventures into kind of the realm of, where people get frustrated or they try to make people feel guilty or ashamed for having thoughts of suicide. So I think that those conversations are really important. Some of the common misperceptions are that if people talk about suicide, that they're not going to do it. And that's not the case. As Dallas, shared, a lot of times people do talk about it, and there are things that they do reach out for help. A lot of them will actually see a doctor within even the month before the attempt. So there are a lot of times people think that there's nothing they can do to stop it, but that's not the case a lot of the times. So
something that you shared a number of times in relation to statistics and the things people think about and the prevalence of it. And I was thinking of that in relation to the community in which we live. The politicians, the business people talk about us living in a global community, you're interconnected, you can do all these things. But are we cognizant of how consciously sort of immerse our children in particular with this global community, whether they're online gaming or whether they're, with their friends on this social sphere, and they're sharing it. And even though one may be in Cayman and one may be in China, for argument's sake, as far as we can get, they could be literally connected and next door and experiencing exactly what's happening in that neighborhood, or whether it's in West Bay or West End in London somewhere. And yet, do we understand that they're feeling, experiencing, sensing, no time zone, no geography or political boundary exists for them? Yeah.
There's been a lot of media about suicide as well, from like 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, where a student shares about reasons why she died by suicide, and also like things like challenges around suicide and self-harm that are on social media. So there's a lot that's going on that I think parents may not even be aware that they're not aware of what's going on.
And perhaps too, that show, I became familiar with that by default. And you think, the child's on, watching a video, it looks okay, it's, no graphic violence or this or that. But are you conscious of the content, what the child may be thinking after, maybe the reasons that the child is watching this thing? And as a parent, if you're not engaged and involved, Dr. Lam, you're probably, not engaged and involved.
Yeah, and absolutely that kind of parents providing that support, providing that avenue to kind of talk about these kind of subjects, the same way that we talk about like physical health and things like that. But also I think as a society, we need to provide more space to talk about these quite sensitive but very important subjects as a community as well, and in school, in kind of our church, in our faith group, and, you know, just kind of everyday kind of conversation, because there are a lot of, you know, common perception, not just in our community, worldwide, everywhere, like you said, you know, say in here or in England or, you know, in China or in Japan, or, you know, we have some culturally specific, unique kind of informations or belief or values, but overall there are common theme of misconception, common theme about struggles, common theme of belief system. And one thing that I do really want us to kind of pay attention to is that there is a difference between deliberate self-harm, deliberate self-injury, to suicidal ideation. A lot of the time, I think, you know, families and teachers and parents, carer and children kind of might have got them slightly mixed up and not quite know, you know, the difference and the management and treatment towards the both presentations. So those are the things that I'd like us to talk a little bit more about.
And something I was just, you know, this is where I wish I was smart like you guys, right? We look at the sort of multicultural facet of our society, and unlike some communities that are still homogeneous, we have this global community right here, you know, in our workplaces, in our schools even. And because of that, I had a chance to interact with different students. They are as connected here as they are with their, you know, extended families, other places, and watching some of the children interact and understanding that they look, they sound, you know, they may be different, but they're more alike than they are different. And the same thing that 13-year-old is feeling doesn't matter, right? They're sitting in the canteen, probably eating the same foods, watching the same video games, watching the same things. They're all the same. So, you know, respectfully to the differences that may be in their homes because of, you know, ethnicity and economics, they're feeling the same pressures. We need to be conscious of it. And as you said, Dr. Lam, you know, have those conversations. All right. Dr. Borden, when we come back from the break, could we ask about some of the statistics, locally and international, get a perspective of where we are? Dr. Brown, maybe have a chance to understand that as sensitive and as challenging as it is, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, she puts some difficult topics on the table, but I understand why.
With a purpose.
With a purpose. Yeah. And if it, you know, going to make us informed, conscious, it's going to make us, you know, that more, you know, equipped to be able to respond to those challenges in the community. For those who are listening, it is our monthly Mental Health Matters. We'd like you to be a part of our discussion, 949-8837 or 1-800-534-8255. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000. Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All-Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. It is our monthly Mental Health Matters, and as we talk about suicide prevention, and as part of the Awareness Month, information that we're sharing in the studio, Dr. Alexandra Boyd and Dr. Erica Lamb, Dr. Colleen Brown, together with Ms. Australia. We hopefully will engage, inform, and get our people to a perspective where they at least feel encouraged to have that discussion, and spark, some meaningful dialogue within our homes. As we talk about so much, let's be able to have this conversation. Dr. Boyd, as we look at this, I reached out to a couple of people who I use as sounding boards now and again. From everything, I said, okay, if you want to have this conversation with your students or with your, own children, how would you go about this? And I give them all sorts of scenarios sometimes, and they'll come back, and I think, as Dr. Brown said earlier, just, make it casual and make it, oh, by the way, just toss it in there. And sometimes they'll say to me, well, you know what, sit down, I needed to speak to you about this thing, because whatever this thing is, once it was, well, we were thinking of selling the house and buying a new one, not because we're financially whichever, but we're just trying to think of this. Parents are very engaged, but what I've found from, it's only 3 people, so statistically probably insignificant, but what all 3 shared independently is that if you don't have that environment within your household or in your classroom where you have that dialogue, then it's going to be challenging. Even if you ask them, well, what game do you want to play for board night tonight? If you don't have that environment, the simplest of questions can be difficult.
Yeah.
2 things. 1, how do we create that environment so that we start now? Being able to talk about anything within our homes. And is it too late, in the sense if your child is now 16, you should have started when it was 16 months. And then secondly, this particular conversation, how do you start it? But first things first.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's going to be important to build trust, really, so that the child or teenager feels safe with the environment. And, this is our topic this month, but so many of the things we've talked about, from bullying to substance abuse to mental illness, all these things, it's important to build an environment where the child feels safe and that they're able to discuss these things and not be judged. Especially suicide is particularly scary. And so I think that in particular takes a requirement for us to be non-judgmental and open. And so, the social media that we talked about that bombards kids is actually an opportunity to have some of these discussions less directly, not like, have you thought about killing yourself? But, hey, I noticed this movie on Netflix. Why don't we check it out? Or I saw this come across Facebook today. Could we talk about this? And it gives little opportunities to have some of those discussions. But definitely things like, I know like family time and dinner time is one that has come back in the States, and things like that can give opportunities to begin building that relationship if that's not an atmosphere you've had before. So,
Dr. Lam?
Yeah. One thing that the research and the literature has indicated and emphasized is that when a young person or anybody who has suicidal ideation, automatically we kind of retract and I don't talk about it, or if I'm guessing, are they? Because we worry about implanting, and suicidal ideation or a plan or something in their head. We know you can't do that. We know just by talking about it is not going to create a suicidal ideation. Research and literature has indicated that if someone do have those ideation, those kind of urges and those kind of thoughts and feelings, by talking about it, by externalizing it, by hearing their own thoughts and hearing, what is going to happen and talk it through, actually reduce the chance of them acting those plans out. And that's what the professional encourages, that ask the open question, stay calm, just listen. You're not looking for, say, immediate solution, but just to let that person hear their own thoughts, hear their own idea out. And it's quite scary, so you do need to think about, right, I need to hold on to my feelings and deal with what is in front of me. And the more that we kind of talk about this, the more that it make it kind of a little bit more normal to talk about something like that.
I just wanted to add in, because this is something that I actually see quite often with parents, right, who are trying to do the right thing, and they're doing the best they can. They're trying to have these really difficult, sensitive conversations, but sometimes their own feelings will get the best of it, right? So when the child or teenager will finally bring it up and share something, a parent will have that reaction like, and they get scared, right? And they're doing the best that they can, but then it shuts the conversation down because of their own personal reaction to it. And so then I've talked to teens often about that. Well, I can't talk to mom about it anymore because I know how she'll react, right? And so unfortunately that can break the dialogue right there. So just as you said, kind of to stay in your own feelings, to get the support as a parent if you need it outside. But when you're having these conversations with your child, just to focus on empathy and understanding and true listening rather than trying to problem solve and shut the conversation down. As soon as we start to say, well, you know that this is how it is, or you know that this is the answer and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do this, we're shutting down conversation. We're putting blame, we're criticizing, we're judging without realizing it. It does come from the best of intentions, of course, usually, but that's just something I think that we really need to be cognizant of when having these discussions.
Dr. Brown?
I would 100% agree. I think that that's something, and as Dallas said, I think it comes 100% from care for the child. It's because you really love the child, so therefore when you hear the child say these things, your emotions get involved, you become very upset. But I think one of the worst things you can do is go negative, because it does shut the child down. I think that, trying to look more for the positive, I mean, it's really great that the kid came forward and said, that told you something. Yeah. Thank you for telling me is usually the first thing I say to any child or teen who tells me something like this. I don't ask, why didn't you tell somebody sooner? Why would you think this? Anything like that. Because you have to think about it this way. The stigma, the religious pieces, all of these things, the kid or the teen isn't stupid. They've already thought these things too. They already know. That's why they're afraid to tell somebody. And when they're telling you, they're terrified, but they want help. They need help very badly. So I think that's one of the best things. And just being able to work through the feelings with that teen in a positive way and be there with them so that it's the two of you getting through it together, I think is the best solution.
Absolutely.
So any sort of comment by a person, but in particular a young person, in relation to, well, I'm thinking of this, or why don't I do? Don't dismiss it. Don't take it as a joke. I mean, it may just be something that is said out of frustration, but better to, I don't want to say overreact, but better to act than dismiss it.
Yes, absolutely. Be proactive with it. It's not overreacting. I don't think it's being proactive. And if it turns out to be nothing, then great. And then you can talk about why it's not okay to really make jokes later on about some of these things, right? Because it can become common language. That is something we do have to acknowledge. It's something that can be thrown out quite often. If I don't get this, I'm going to kill myself. Like, that is something that a lot of parents and teachers hear, right? So we do need to still take it seriously, though, especially if there are other risk factors going on. But again, that's just being proactive.
It's not like, the boy who cried wolf, nothing like this is, don't dismiss it, but as you said, Ms. Dallas, make sure that you open up the opportunity to have a conversation. Listen, this isn't something that, you take lightly. What about the instance where we see some people, the word depression we've always thrown about, I'm feeling. It is not just a simple word. There is a clinical significance behind it. Yes, you may be feeling a bit down, you're weary and so on, but it's not the same thing. So make sure that we understand that as well. Is it then that as parents, perhaps more than teachers and counselors and other sort of professionals, as parents we're overwhelmed with parenting, we feel ill-equipped and ill-informed? Would it then be to our advantage to maybe read up, speak to a counselor, get that information? If you're going to talk to your child about college, maybe you're looking at the colleges that the child is attending, the particular subjects or careers that the child is considering, so that you can have that conversation. If you were a doctor, you can say, well, hey, when I was in med school, this is what I did. But if you were, an engineer and your child wants to be, I don't know, maybe a talk show host. So get informed then. Is that would be helpful for the parent?
Absolutely.
And that's the whole point of the community, the whole idea behind the movement of this psychoeducation materials in the community. And because of the Alex Benton Foundation's mission, one of our big missions is to reduce stigma in mental health, in management of depression and anxiety, and most important one in our mission is reduce suicidal rates in our community. So we know that in order to have those brilliant conversation, in order to feel comfortable to kind of do that and be kind of geared to have those conversation, you need to know what you're talking about. You kind of need to know, okay, what language is it? Well, statistically speaking, what are the chances? So you have a bit of an idea. And, you know, like you said, the difference between, you know, a mental health episode or a difference between kind of reactive kind of comments, or a difference between ongoing psychological distress or a mental health episode. You know, knowing those differences can actually gear the conversation towards a certain direction and elicit the information that helps you to think about what you're going to do next. So knowledge is power. So come to this, you know, listen to talk shows like this, come to the community workshops, and go onto website. You know, we have loads of, like, locally we have so much, you know, websites and social media based information and things like that that parents, young people can access. And we are all kind of like been doing quite a lot of talks and things like that in the community. So whenever you see those topics, just pop along. You don't have to say anything. Just have an open mind to take those information in, so you're better equipped.
And that's the thing. You know, parents try to make sure they're up to speed with so much so they can be as helpful, as accommodating, as nurturing, and provide a safe environment. But then sometimes the parent thinks, well, wow, this is way outside of my scope of expertise. Now with that, and that parent who's listening and who's saying, well, I'm not sure little Johnny or little Susie is fearless, but there's some little thing that's different, and without being an alarmist, the parent is being proactive. What would be that next step if that parent who's listening and realizing this thing? What should that parent do next?
Get help. Ask for help. Reach out to, you know, if you kind of know someone that you trust. We always say someone you trust, someone you feel comfortable to have that first conversation, so that you can have your, you know, kind of question answer. Reach out to that person, because usually your gut feeling usually is quite right. If you like, okay, I got this and I don't know what to do, and think about, okay, who would I talk to? That person that come up in your mind might be the person who can be your sounding board, might be that person who can actually guide you to the next stage. And we always say, just ask for help. You know, we have the Department of Counseling Center, we have, you know, Alex Panton Foundation, we have, you know, ways to contact us, school counselor, you know, there's any young person can speak to the school counselor themselves. We have a lot of community-based places like the Tire Lounge, Family Resource Center, you know, a lots of those places that young people can themselves can go and ask for help, and parents can get information as well.
All right. Well, we do have a caller online. For those who are listening, as Dr. Lam just shared, it's an opportunity for us to engage our listeners, hopefully to dispel myths and misconceptions, common, you know, little things that we may not believe, but also to be able to understand where the community is at. In our studio, as our panelists, as usual, facilitating our monthly discussion on our mental health panelists, Dr. Alexandra Borden, we have Dr. Erica Lam, Dr. Colleen Brown, together with Stella Drala as our guests. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. I didn't quite get the name of your nice guest there.
Okay, well, I'm happy to repeat it for you, because I may have said it so fast or not at all, and others didn't get it either. We have Dr. Alexandra Borden, we have Dr. Erica Lam, Dr. Colleen Brown, together with Miss Dallas Drally, right? Dallas Drally?
Drally.
Yeah. Original from West Bay, but not as
What is that? Some Bodge's daughter, right?
Yes, sir.
One of them, I don't know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
but,
I am.
You know, yeah.
I have a problem with the psychiatrist. Now, there is a practicing psychiatrist in Ireland that I went to, and she put so many lies on my record. I want that, not proof of that, right? That it caused me a great deal of problems. I couldn't get insurance. Now, the fact that these actually at least 4 or 5 lives that I can bring reliable.
I don't want to be disrespectful to you, sir, at all. But if and you as professionals can guide, but if there is an issue with any professional, and there's a professional body, and you feel that you have been perhaps unprofessionally dealt with in a way, perhaps make the formal, I use the word complete, or to the requisite body for psychiatrists and those allied to the profession. That would be the council.
Yeah, right. Well, I would suggest trying to follow up with a professional first to express your concerns. If there's no change, or if you're not comfortable doing that, psychiatrists are regulated by the Medical and Dental Council.
Right. Now, if you wish to discuss this, and like I said, I don't want to, get into that, but I won't be dismissive of you. But if there's something you want to talk about specifically to psychiatry, to counseling, even if it's critical of things other than, of that nature, go right ahead, sir.
No, that was, I had to say that as a background so they can understand where I'm coming from, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to call any names or anything now.
No, that's not the issue.
What I want to find out from the doctors is, right, then you have a psychiatrist practicing in the island, right, that's clearly very incompetent. Do you all do anything about that, or you just leave them alone?
But you see, that's how you could answer the question. If you have this, so a professional, lawyer, doctor, teacher, or any other professional where there's an issue, what is that rate of redress if someone feels a grief? Is there anything that can be done about it? That's the question. Thanks very much, sir.
Yeah, so I would suggest following up with that professional, whether it is a counselor, psychiatrist, whatever, or a doctor, a GP. I would recommend trying to follow up with them first. If there are grave concerns, then you can follow up with the licensing board to express a complaint and have them follow up to see if any further actions are necessary, especially if there are any concerns about wrongdoing or negligence.
Yeah, that's certainly, don't say this, sort of apologizing, but
yeah. Well, I mean, from a mental health perspective, a lot of times, if there are any concerns about work I'm doing, sometimes the words that we use, people don't understand. Our language tends to be a lot different. Like antisocial to some people means nervous in crowds. Antisocial to us means criminal behaviors, right? So sometimes our language is different, which is why I'd recommend following up with that practitioner, because we tend to be careful and mindful of what we report, what we put in our notes. Especially anyone licensed here is actually. At least for us, we're licensed somewhere else as well. We're regulated by multiple boards. Mm-hmm. So we tend to be cautious and careful about what we put in things, especially in the reports. So I'd suggest following up with the person who wrote that first. That's why I always talk to with any of my clients. If you have any questions or concerns about anything that's happening, even if you're just frustrated with the process or not sure about some of my licenses or my education, please ask. Because that's something that we're obligated to share with you is our training, our background, and our competency and what we're able to do, and how we work as well.
Like something you've all shared, but I know you have. Mm-hmm. This is a personal sort of relationship. You're meeting with a psychiatrist, psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a good fit? It's nothing sometimes to do with the person's expertise or experience. It's just, hey, am I comfortable? We go to a physician, and you may prefer. Dr. Ebanks, over Dr. Ebanks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's personal, right, Dr. Ms. Alice?
I was just going to quickly share my favorite metaphor for this whole situation in terms of that therapeutic alliance and that fit. I tell clients usually on the first day, finding the right therapist and counselor for you is like finding that pair of jeans. I hate jean shopping. It's so difficult, right? Yeah. And you can go to store after store and you finally find that right pair, and then you want to buy like 4 of the same ones, right? Yep. I view that just the same way. I tell them I'm not going to take it personally if I'm not the one for you. I truly want you to get the service and help support that you need. Yeah. If you don't feel comfortable with me for some reason, I'm happy to make a referral. I know, all of us, we work very well together making referrals back and forth. So it's really about finding the right fit for you. So again, kind of going back to what we've been saying, if you want to reach out, just make the first step to reach out. It doesn't mean that that's where you have to land and stay. That's just the first step. It's getting in the door, whether that be, through the multitude of different resources that we have. Yeah.
And it might even be someone you already know and you're already comfortable with, like the pediatrician or your GP or even your pastor. So there's a lot of different ways to access help as well.
Can I ask 2 things just with that? Pastors, many of us talk to our pastors, she may be, I was a THD or PhD, she may be qualified, he may be a counselor. But pastoral counseling and clinical or this other counseling? Is there a difference? And
yes. Yeah, so it's a different kind of training, right? So we've talked before about the different professions. Actually, we have 3 clinical psychologists here today, and Miss Dallas, who is a marriage family therapist. So we tend to take more of an individual focus. Although with kids, we'll still work with families, but Miss Dallas has shared she tends to always work from a systems perspective. Counselors tend to take on different kinds of concerns as well, more like adjustment, relationship issues. So pastoral counseling is going to be, and working with your pastor may or may not end up in the realm of counseling. Actually, a lot of the pastors on island have a degree in counseling or pastoral counseling, but that's going to have more of a religious approach to it. So with clients, if my client has a religion or a faith, then I might use some of that in the work that we do, but I don't subscribe to it, and the work that I use comes particularly from mental health, and it's not tied to a particular religion, whereas they tend to counsel from that perspective. I've had clients before who will work with the pastor for more the religious and spiritual support, and work with me for more the mental health concerns, the depression, the anxiety, the suicidal thoughts that are going on as well.
Okay. Now, generally speaking, just within the schools, we talked about school counselors and the like. And some of us may have gone to schools where they had career guidance, career counselors, and then there may be a school counselor, whether that, in that respect, for the student, for the parent, and for the school, what should we be looking for with that school counselor? I don't want to be, too light with it, but that person who is a school counselor, is that a person should be like one of you guys, or should it just be the person who has that title and you go talk to, because that's a good person to talk to?
Well, they tend to be the point person at the school, right? And so they will be the kind of the front line. They can deal with minor things that come up at school. If there's anything more mental health related, a lot of times they will then refer out to us. And then we can actually work with the school. The school counselor can be the person and the safe person there. And a lot of times we will then talk to them about what we're doing and the best way to support the child in the school environment as well.
Then as a parent, and if you are aware that your child is going to the school counselor, maybe they're bullying at school, maybe the child is struggling with some of the workload, whatever that thing is. Some of us are very polite and we don't want to, well, what's your qualification? And what's your experience? We don't know how to, we're not quite sure how to, maybe we're frustrated. When we do ask it, it's, should we, ask out that school counselor, again, hey, what's going on here? How's little Jeannie doing? What are you training in? Because the clinical psychologists, as opposed to the pastoral counselor, there may be some other issues that are, outside your pay grade. What should we do as that parent with that child experiencing that situation?
Well, first of all, the government education system, they have an assigned school counselor. That's right. Each school have an assigned school counselor. So the option, the option to kind of go shopping might be a little bit limited because that is your first point of contact. Your school counselor that assigned to that particular school or schools. The same as kind of learning mentor and your classroom teachers and things like that. I think I understand what you're trying to kind of say. Maybe look at it this way. What you want is that you want your children to kind of get the best quality of care, to get the service that is fit for his or her needs, right? And in our kind of clinical terms, we have a term called conceptualization or formulation. What we do is we talk to the young person to understand what is it that they want to work towards, the therapeutic goals, what is it that make a change, right? And then based on that and based on our kind of clinical understanding and our training and all of those, we will then kind of pull together a bit of a roadmap. And that is called the conceptualization or the formulation. And having have a good understanding of that roadmap will help you to understand the treatment plan, the stages of the work that needs to be done, like Dr. Paul was saying. About the, maybe a psychologist kind of deal with the mental health side of it, a kind of the faith group helps to deal with, the other side of it. So understanding that kind of the roadmap might actually be more helpful and empower the young person and the family to follow the treatment plan. Am I making sense?
Yeah. I follow you, and I'm just trying to think sometimes that it comes back like one of the challenges I believe in maybe our society, just from observation, is that we are sometimes unwilling, perhaps unsure, perhaps even a bit afraid to ask, certain people a question.
Yeah. Well, no, it's okay, because you'd asked about, like, qualifications and licensures as well. And so I'm not sure how the school counselors are registered or if they are. And I know not all of them are there every day either. So, you know, you can always ask at the school who's there. Definitely, if there is anything more going on, working with a psychologist can address all of the concerns. But CPAM actually registers all of us, and that's a way of seeing if the person is registered. And all of us are obliged to tell you what our credentials are if you ask. Yeah. I should imagine that they are.
Similarly.
We don't have a school counselor with us today.
I think
regulated by education.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that I think a way to get around that so that it's not quite so, you know,
blunt
is maybe just asking if the school has a policy for how they handle you know, situations in which someone's showing behaviors that might be a little concerning. Do they have, you know, a policy in place or, you know, some sort of plan that they usually go by? Because usually the school counselor is the one who does that. Because a school counselor, while they can be extremely helpful in helping the child to calm down, things like that, you know, because they're often not in the school setting every single day, they're not going to be able to give that kid the amount of support, or they're not going to be able to give, you know, to take the scope of what that child's going to need if they are honestly suicidal. So usually what ends up happening with school counselors, at least in my past experiences in the States, was I would end up getting a referral from a school counselor where they had some concerns and then they moved them on to therapy with me. So I think that just asking, what does the school do in this kind of situation? What's usually the, you know, the standard policy of what goes on, just to find out. And maybe there isn't one, and that's good. That's okay. Because then everybody goes, wow, there's something we need to work on here. And then you're creating change, positive change, which is great for the entire school setting. So I think that that's something that could be really beneficial and helpful for all the children.
Yeah. And my experience on island has been that a lot of the school counselors are receptive to working together with us, especially if we do get that referral. They want to know that the kid's going to be okay and what they can do to support the kid in the school environment, because kids spend so much of their life at school. So.
Well, that's the thing, you know, when we look at it, and perhaps when we look at the perspective of the government schools and the resources that the government has available to it through its, you know, HSA, for instance, and all the things, their situation there and in the private schools may not be the same. So as involved parents, as you want to know about the curriculum, maybe you want to know, as Dr. Brown shared, you know, how do you deal with these issues, and, you know, what support do you have for, you know, for other things, not just the bullying programs. All right, after our headline news, can we maybe continue our discussion? Certainly invite our listeners to call and share, and as you tune in, perhaps, you know, be encouraged and be inspired. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
It's an all-white affair by Webster Memorial United Church. Saturday, October 13th at Pedro Castle. A night filled with fellowship, entertainment, and your favorite Caymanian dishes with all the trimmings. All for only $25. Tickets are available at all United Church locations or by calling 526-0444. Don't miss the lineup of Lammy Seymour, Women of Purpose, William White, and Samuel Rose. The all-white affair, Saturday, October 13th at Pedro Castle. Call 526-0444 or visit any United Church to get your tickets today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
A 36-year-old man wanted by police has been apprehended after a tip from the public. The Royal Cayman Islands Police Service says Joseph Hurlston was taken into custody Sunday night at an address on West Bay Road. Another man at the location was also arrested on suspicion of harboring an offender. In news elsewhere, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his country is in a more stable place now that it has completed a renegotiation of a free trade deal with the United States and Mexico. The agreement was reached late Sunday and gives U.S. farmers greater access to the Canadian dairy market, but it keeps the former North American Free Trade Agreement dispute resolution process that the U.S. wanted in jettison. It offers Canada protection if Trump goes ahead with plans to impose tariffs on cars, trucks, and auto parts imported into the United States. Trudeau says the deal needed to be fair and level the playing field given that one trading partner is 10 times larger. He says Canada did not accept any deal. A flock of doves fluttered skyward at sunrise in Las Vegas on Monday, each bird bearing a leg band with the name of one of the 58 people slain in the deadliest mass shooting in nation's modern history 1 year ago. Marking the anniversary of the night that a gunman opened fire from a high-rise casino suite on a crowd of 22,000 country music fans, Nevada Governor Brian Sandoval gathered with several hundred people at an outdoor amphitheater remembrance ceremony. Those are your latest updates. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, I'm Shanda Gallego.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Do you have a customer shutoff valve installed downstream of your water meter? If not, please contact the Water Authority to discuss having one installed. The customer shutoff valve enables you to turn off the water between the meter and your property. In the event of a storm, turning off the customer shutoff valve can prevent unexpectedly high water bills and property damage should a leak occur in your property's plumbing. This hurricane preparedness tip is brought to you by Water Authority Cayman, suppliers of the world's most popular drink.
Hi, I'm remodeling a bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's new kitchen and bath center.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And I'm glad that in the studio I have a much better guest that you can pay attention to when you happen to see us live on that screen. But listen to us on radio, so much better. In the studio for our monthly mental health matters, Dr. Alexandra Warden, Dr. Eric Lam, Dr. Colleen Brown, and Mr. Dallas Raleigh joins us as we thankfully have such, not just competent guests, who with such a true love for our community to make us healthy. Talk about suicide prevention and the whole issue. Our youth in particular, in Cayman and generally speaking, should we be more concerned in terms of statistics of, our youth, and if so, certain ages, than we would say those over X age? Mm-hmm. What are we thinking, Dr. Warden?
Well, globally, there's one death by suicide every 40 seconds, which I think is a terrifying statistic, and that's actually an older one. Okay. So, and suicide is actually the third leading cause of death for persons aged 15 to 44 years old. So we see an increase in kind of like teens and young adults, and then again, once people get into over 65. So this is a particularly vulnerable group that we're dealing with because there is so much going on at the time. In Cayman, the PAHO study that was done a few years ago found that over 50% of the students had mentioned thoughts of hopelessness and feeling sad or depressed, which sounds like a lot, but is actually about on par with the rest of the English-speaking Caribbean countries. So the depression is commonly correlated with, it's a risk factor for suicide, although not everyone who does attempt suicide or who dies by suicide is depressed. I think that's important to keep in mind too. But of the students who were interviewed or who had completed the survey, which was 15 to 19 years old, and there's about 900 students, 22.6% of them, which was 192 of them, indicated that they had seriously considered suicide in the past year.
Seriously considered?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and you were talking earlier about celebrities. I did a quick little search someone sent me on the celebrities that passed away, say within the last year or last 2 years or whichever. And I recognized there was a lot, but there's also inconsistency with reporting as to how the media will do it. Some would say, passed in this way, others would just. And if you don't know the story, you wouldn't know. And it had me to think that sometimes, yes, we should be respectful in everything that we do, but if we can have open dialogue, Dr. Brown, about these things, that people understand that it affects all of us, irrespective of the jobs we do, where we work, what we look like, how much money we make, and it's.
Yeah, I think something that I often remind my clients is the rates of depression are 1 in 5 people. The rates of anxiety are 1 in 4. That's a lot of people. And people just don't talk about it. It's not like it's something that people are running around, screaming in front of everybody, I have depression. So likely there's a lot of more people around you that have, some difficulties with their mental health. You just don't know it. And something that I often tell clients is if you had diabetes and you were having some difficulties with your insulin level, would you just be like, well, I just won't take insulin. That's all right. I'm not weak. My body will fix itself. It sounds ridiculous when you say it that way. But what we need to learn is that the brain is just a different body part. That's all it is. And there's a different way of treatment. And sometimes people tend to have that stigma of mental, different than physical. But it really doesn't need to be. It's just a different body part. It's just a different way to get help. And we have to try to remember that.
Could then that be part of the... I was trying to say, I believe if people, as you said, Dr. Lam, have a chance to talk something through in a safe place with people that they have confidence in, that will keep it confidential when necessary, that will guide them respectfully and lovingly. Hey, listen, you came to me because you want to learn how to do a recipe. Well, I'm pretty good at it, but grandmother's even better, so let me go there and show you how she makes her cassava cake. We will do that, with the aches and pains, with all these other things. But with our mental health, we don't. I'm hoping, just like we have, and I commend, this is obviously October and we're looking at breast cancer. The Lions Club of Tropical Gardens with their, to me, they were the pioneers in having these discussions very publicly across the entire country in this education awareness. If we have these conversations, whether on this program or this radio station and other forums like Alex Panton Foundation is doing, that we become more conscious, become more sensitive, more informed, that we can recognize some of the, I don't want to say, should I say warning signs, some of the things that are happening. Help us sort of understand the language, know what to look for, how to have the conversation, and be able to help ourselves and help each other.
Yeah. I think every conversation is a step in the right direction. It's just one brick at a time. And, I think one of the biggest things as we're talking about raising awareness and fighting the stigma, one of the biggest myths that I believe continues to propel these issues of stigma surrounding mental health and suicide is the fact that we often think that reaching out for help or even just talking and opening up about our feelings is a sign of weakness. That is one of the biggest issues that I will say, like the mental health community faces in general, that we all are struggling with, is this idea that we got somewhere along the way that this is a sign of weakness, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I 100% refute that. It is a sign of strength for us to be able to acknowledge our vulnerability and be vulnerable and acknowledge our feelings and, you know, just our deepest needs and all those core sensitive feelings that we all share. For us to acknowledge that and be able to be in a space and be vulnerable with that is the strongest thing that we can do.
If I may ask, I think earlier, Ms. Dallas, you shared that 4 out of 5 people have already exhibited certain things. So if we understand what they are, we can do. So it's not unlikely, well, you know, maybe 1 out of 5 who would have gone ahead, but that person has already exhibited something. Now, once we see that, so that person who's, what do we share, you know, changing their diet, change their behavior, maybe they become withdrawn, stop doing activity. But that person who is now actively engaged and, you know, showing the good signs of improvement, maybe starting to present, probably is on a path, but could use a continued health. I mean, that was us.
Like, you just mean like once someone has hopefully been making some changes. Or they seem to be doing well, that they're on the right path. Yeah, absolutely. But absolutely that could be a sign that things are going better, right? But I think often that could, we don't want to necessarily dismiss that, okay, then they're cured, quote unquote, right? Or like everything is okay now, because we still have these ups and downs. So maybe things have changed, maybe that person is doing overall pretty well, but then another stressor comes along or something, and they still need that space that they can still go back and say, all right, I'm not doing so well at this moment, and that's okay. A phrase that I'm hearing a lot more now these days, which I love, is it's okay to not be okay. I love that. I'm seeing that on social media, and I'm seeing that in posts and everything, which I'm just really happy about, that we're acknowledging it's okay when you're not okay for the day. If you're having a low mood day, okay, I'm going to be here with you. I'm emotionally, like I'm here for you. Instead of this sort of mentality of it's all right, you know, chin up and don't be sad. You've got this. Again, well intentioned, but what that does is it actually shuts us down. So we want to always create that space, even if you're doing well, you're making a lot of changes, you're working on your own maybe counseling and treatment, but you always want to still stay active with that.
Well, because I would say as well, my experience is that when things do seem to be going well and then something happens, there's a much greater fear that you're going to completely relapse and lose everything. So a lot of times then they can get hit harder. So I'd say, you know, that support is always important. Well, and anything like really drastic change of behavior as well, I'd be curious as to what was going on as well. Because one of the major warning signs for suicide can actually be a drastic change in mood too.
I just wanted to say that misconception that once you make changes that things are supposed to be perfect then. That things are supposed to just continually go on this like nice uprising, a nice slope, right? No, change actually is this, like, I know your viewers, right? It's more like this squiggly line of ups and downs, but overall in the projection of, you know, an upward mobility, that's what we need to focus on. So that misconception, and like I see that all the time in counseling, right? Like someone is doing so well, making all these changes, and then there's a dip, whether I'm working with an individual, a couple, a family, like, okay, we've hit this other roadblock and problem. That's okay. That's not an indicator that you're going back, that you're losing the progress that you made. And this is another stepping stone. This is another hurdle and challenge to get through.
For sure.
And every kind of, you know, hurdle that you get through, you learn something, don't you? You learn a new strategies, you got a new tool, or you learn that someone is there for you. You learn something that you don't know about, you know, yourself. So, every step is towards recovery. And I like the word recovery rather than kind of cure or heal, or, you know, those sort of can feel quite, it's just that stop, you know, you're aiming for that stop. No, it's development, human brain, and, you know, psychology, and all of those is a trajectory of development, and we ought to look at it like that.
It's all a process.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Are there particular, I don't know, maybe risk factors? I'm thinking of someone who has, Dr. Ron, you referenced perhaps diabetes or the like, or some other, you know, health issues. Are there risk factors that we could consider for suicide? we like lists. We like to be
Yes.
able to check boxes and stuff.
I think yes, there are definitely risk factors. I would like to give the caution, though, not to think, well, if somebody doesn't have this risk factor, it's not going to happen. Because of the fact that sometimes, I wouldn't want to lump too much into those categories, or just because they have that risk factor, they will do this. Suicide usually does happen. Women attempt more often. Men complete suicide more, usually because men tend to use means that end up being more lethal than women. History of trauma is huge. For individuals having suicidal ideation. So by trauma, I mean something that was bad, sad, scary that a child or a teen or an adult went through. Could be a one-time event, or it could be what a psychologist term as complex trauma, which means, continuous violence or going through a situation that is very difficult. So from some examples of that could be domestic violence, living in a bad neighborhood, things like that. Some other things that we have, substance abuse. Being intoxicated. One of the big things that I've told a lot of my clients is family history of suicide or depression. Some of my people, I've told them, no matter how good you've tried to be, no matter how well balanced you've tried, it's in your genetics. It's just, you're trying to do the best you can, but it's in your genetics, and some depression is going to come out. So sometimes you do have to keep an eye on people. And I know there's a few other risk factors as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys want to jump in.
Going through kind of existing mental health difficulties or at kind of crisis point. And this might sound very controversial, but clinically speaking, that some side effects of psychiatric medication can lead to suicidal ideation. I know that sounds quite controversial to some people, and I have been during the community workshop. I was actually asked several times, how would that be? It's because, it's chemical imbalance in our brain. Mm-hmm. And that is why it's so important. If you are prescribed with medication, monitor by a licensed medical profession, whether it's your psychiatrist, whether it's your GP, or whether it's your physician. Have those monitor. It's not just about taking the the pill and then everything's
fixed.
Yeah, the side effects of medication can actually lead to the increase of ideation and feeling. So it's all about that package of care.
I think that's often very confusing to people. They have something called a black box warning against suicidality with adolescents. And the way that happens is because it is a chemical imbalance. So we work changing behaviors to rebalance the chemicals in the brain through therapy. Medications work by rebalancing the chemicals first to allow us to be able to make the changes. So what happens is that the antidepressants will treat the physical side of the depression first, right? So with depression, people are often very tired. There's a lot of fatigue. There's not a lot of kind of get up and go. And so even though there might be thoughts of suicide, which is what we're referring to as suicidal ideation, there's not a lot of ability to be able to follow through with the plan when the depression is very severe. The medications will work to treat the physical sides first. So what we see go up first is activity level. They begin to get energy back. They begin to feel better physically, but emotionally they're still depressed. Emotionally they're still having these thoughts and feelings of hopelessness that I'm a burden on everyone else. I don't think I can do this. And so, but they now have more ability to be able to follow through on the plans. And that's why it's very careful. It's very important to, I think, medications. Medications can be an important part of treatment. And if that is something that has been recommended, follow it as prescribed. But that's where it's important to keep an eye on what's going on, whether you have a therapist or a psychologist or a counselor on board as well, or if you're the parent, keeping that conversation open with the child as well. So while the medications can be hugely helpful, and a lot of times if someone has severe depression, I'll say that they might need meds. But that's how that part works. I think that's very confusing and quite intimidating for people, but that's where the psychosocial support's really important, especially for the teens.
Now, with that in mind, then, do we look at the behavior of the person?
Mm-hmm.
New things they're not doing anymore, could they be indicative of potentialities?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, any kind of changes in behavior that you notice, any kind of changes in mood, if they're becoming more aggressive, they're becoming more withdrawn, you're noticing more mood swings, all of those can be signs of stress. So that's why, especially if there's been like a recent tragedy or loss, that can be a risk factor. Any kind of like increased substance abuse, talking or writing about death, or increased impulsivity. So you notice that they're taking a lot more risk than they used to. It can be a sign of just kind of feeling that there's not really any purpose left, or looking for a thrill to try to break through some of the depression. Some of the imminent warning signs, so signs to obviously take any of it seriously, but especially if they are putting their affairs in order, if they're going to start like giving away prized possessions or telling people goodbye. Those, or their mood shifts from sullen and withdrawn to just a calm. Those can be signs of imminent danger. Those would be definitely times that you want to get them in to see someone, whether one of us or your GP or the hospital. The hospital is always an option for people.
With other medical illnesses, someone may go to a physician and all along they've seemingly healthy, all the blood tests and the things have been good, but doctors all of a sudden this particular thing, perhaps cancer, is all of a sudden. With suicide and the thoughts, is it usually a sudden onset, like you can with some illnesses that just didn't show up in those blood works or lab works or other things prior? With suicide, would it be up and overnight?
I think it depends, and that's why I think it's really important to see a professional, because it can depend on the client. We were talking about medication, so that's something that can happen pretty quickly, or it can be premeditated. Another thing that is immediate warning sign, it can be, I usually will ask a teen, how would you hurt yourself? When do you plan on hurting yourself? I once had someone tell me that they didn't see a reason to live after they got their driver's license in 6 months. So therefore, that was concerning to me, because it gives me 6 months, but then it's also, okay, what happens then, right? But I think that, there's some diagnoses such as, ADHD's got a lot of impulsivity. So, you've got some people that may have that impulsivity streak, that it can be impulsive in nature, and sometimes suicides are impulsive. But then there's also if there's some depression involved, or if something has happened, in the past, where it could be something that has built. So that's why it's important to be assessed by a medical professional, and for us to do a thorough assessment and look at the whole case. As Dr. Lamb was referring to before, the conceptualization piece is really important for us to look at all the pieces.
When I listen to you, driver's license, graduation, whether university or college, or these things that are markers in our lives, rites of passage, expectation, hope, excitement, but yet others maybe see that as, oh boy, triggering less joyous occasions. What's caused down in our society, and how do we, as parents, as coaches, as teachers, sort of, maybe wrongly assuming that the child looking at this with the same level of, sort of jubilance as we are, and instead the child saying, well, that's it now, What is it?
You have risk factors, right? When we're talking about risk factors, we also have protective factors in our life, right? And it's always, we have kind of like, illnesses, viruses, and, all of those things. But we also have protective factor of our, physical health. And mental health is very much the same. You have risk factors, you have, significant events in life, you have exposure to adversity, but you also have resilience, you have protective factors, you have support, you have, all of those. So it's a bit of a balance game. So if you are coming up to significant events, adversity, or, things that kind of bad, scary, threatening, trauma related, protect yourself, increase your productivity, and decrease the kind of distress is a way to balance that scale, right? So sometimes we can do it on our own, sometimes we can't. The same way that's, a small cut, you can look after that cut and, put plaster, look after, change the dressing. A few weeks later, you're fine. A big cut, you need help, right? And it's the same, with mental health. It's kind of a little bit, misbalance, or in your life, and adversity happen, your resilience kicks in. You're able to bounce back because you're able to utilize support. You're able to kind of help yourself. Then you're great. You learn something. Think about that trajectory that Ms. Dallas was talking about, recovery and learning and building yourself and all of those. But when things is becoming too big, it's becoming too intense and prolonged, as in like it's too long, that it kind of chips into the belief that you have about yourself. It chips in almost to your way of interacting with your life. Now that is something that we take kind of more seriously and say you definitely need help. So it's about understanding that development. It's like you have mental health and then you have adversity in life. You adjust a little bit, you do something about it, you learn about yourself. If that doesn't work, then you have to cope. You might then go through struggle, and then you might develop or face with a mental health illness. So it's kind of, at each of those stages. That's why we say proactive prevention are always the way to go. Like, target those earlier stage rather than wait until the last kind of quite end of the spectrum.
Is it preventable? Is suicide preventable?
I think absolutely. I think, especially with the last statement that you said when you talked about, with those big things coming up, what can we do? It goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning when we were talking about how to approach the topic, and we talked about positive rather than negative. Think about it. Think about the way parents approach, not all parents, of course, but because you care about your children and your, big things coming up. Got to study for this driver's license test. You better make sure you pass. Think about that message as compared to, how can I support you? How is that different? And how does praise and the positive support, how is that taken differently from a child or a teen as compared to, more of that pressure? And I think with less of the pressure, I think that that's a way that you can really help foster someone and build their resilience, as Dr. Lamb was talking about.
So create hope and expectation, positive reinforcement, nurture and safe environment, things that perhaps we took for granted because we had it in our homes or we expected others, but maybe our societies are changing, pressures are different. We're not cognizant of the challenges that the child is facing in school, online, down the street, but across the pond. All these things in this environment that are
Well, and if I may add as well, because I'm just kind of watching the time, another big risk factor is actually suicide in the community. People who are close to you, we tend to see suicide in what we call suicides in clusters. Exactly. And Cayman, there tends to be hotspots as well. So in Cayman, we'll know where a lot of those are as well, as far as like the cliffs. And so, as a community, we should be aware that becomes a risk factor. People who are close to the person who died are going to be at risk for it as well. So not only in families, but within social circles too. And so we see that not only with suicide, but also with cutting as well, which I know has been coming up a lot more at our clinic, and I believe everywhere else as well. And so I think that, that's another conversation to be having as well. And I think Alex Panton has been working to talk about that. So
absolutely,
if you want to speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, I think there is a bit of misconception about deliberate self-harm and self-injury. If someone is kind of doing that, then they must be wanting to kind of end their life. Actually, it's very, very, very different presentation. Deliberate self-harm, hurting yourself, cutting, burning, hurting your body, is a way, it's not the most helpful, but it's a way of coping. It's a way of that person trying to deal with their difficulties in their own way. So self-injury is a way of coping. And yes, it's not very helpful. It's not helpful and it's not healthy for that person, but it's a way of that person coping. So if we're able to replace that coping mechanism to something more healthy, to be something more meaningful, and to base on that strength and positivities, we can actually manage that quite positively. But whereas suicidal ideation, feelings and thoughts, it is an active intention to end your life. So there's a massive difference. And active intention to end your life require a crisis management plan that done by the professional that are trained in the area.
Right.
There was just one other thing that I wanted to just mention real quickly as we talked about it, suicide being preventable, right? And absolutely, I think everything that we've talked about today speaks to that, of course. This could be a whole other topic. I just wanted to say, though, real quickly that when someone does die by suicide, there are people that are left behind, right? And we call them the survivors of suicide. And that's really important for also because there can be survivor's guilt. So I just had to kind of say that, too, that even though, yes, by and large, that's why we're here is prevention, being proactive. When a loved one does die by suicide, for those survivors that are left behind, struggling with that pain and loss and grief, knowing that they're not to blame and understanding and being able to work through that is really important. So I just wanted to throw that out there too for those individuals, those survivors, to be able to get the help and support that they need, and to be able to work through that loss and that grief.
Yeah. And actually that touches on, so we talked a lot about social media as well, and that was, I think, the start of the semicolon campaign. And so there was a great campaign that came up a few years ago in the U.S. that is even active in our community on island, which is that, so when a sentence ends, you normally put a period or a full stop. What the semicolon means is that your story doesn't end there. Your story continues. And so the semicolon, if anyone Googles it, semicolon tattoos, it will come up, and it's a sign of, a lot of people do it if they have survived a suicide attempt, or anyone who's struggled with mental illness and suicidal ideation, as a way of knowing that your story continues. Your story doesn't have to end here in the dark part. I think that's what's important to remember, is that no matter how dark or hopeless you feel, there is help out there, and feelings don't stay around for forever. Reach out. There's a lot of support available here. And, there's always help available, and that the sun will come back, right? Yeah. And I think that that's important to keep in mind. A lot of times people, even up until the moment, I actually saw a really amazing documentary by a guy who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, and he said on the way down, he regretted it. As soon as his feet left the bridge, he regretted it. And every suicide survivor he's spoken to has said the same thing. So if you hear anyone talking about it, talk to them. And sometimes it is going to be the direct questions. If you have a deep sense, have you thought about hurting or killing yourself? How would you do it? When would you do it? Would you be willing to go with me to talk to a doctor so we can get you some help? Would you go with me to the emergency room so we can get you some support now?
Don't dismiss it, and be proactive.
Take it seriously, yeah.
Right.
And so there's help available on island. There's the counseling center. Sorry, you're not with Counseling Center anymore. Used to be my TCC base. But the Counseling Center has free counseling available. They're available at 949-8789. They also do intakes at FRC, the Family Resource Center, 949-0006. The emergency room at the hospital will receive people 24/7 if there is an imminent need for support. If you think that person is really at risk of hurting themselves, just call 911 or go there. Otherwise, if it's not completely imminent, you could meet with a mental health professional. There's also a hotline that we have it's a crisis line at the crisis center, but they are 24/7. That's available at 943-2422. Hopefully to have a child-specific suicide hotline coming up soon through Alex Panton. But there's so many resources out there. Yeah. I know talk often about substance abuse, same thing here. Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys. It is a challenging, sensitive, difficult subject, but if we have the conversation, as Dr. Lam said, from that informed perspective, we can make it so much better. Any final thoughts, perhaps, Dr. Lam, if you wish to share?
I would strongly encourage all the listener to spread the word about the community workshop that Alex Panton Foundation is delivering. The next phase of our workshop, we are hoping to actually go into existing established community group like churches or school or say the Rotary or the youth group and place or like PTA meetings. So we're hoping to actually branch out to people who might not feel comfortable to step out of their kind of comfort zone. So please watch out, check out our website, check out our media, because the workshop I think is great because it covers all of these topics that we're talking about, and the workshop is usually led and facilitated by qualified clinician. So clinical concern questions can be asked and can be talked about in a safe and clinical manner in those workshops. So please come and support and spread the word.
Thanks.
And look out. Yeah,
we've got links on our Facebook already, and I'll put it on our website as well.
All right. Thanks very much. Dr. Brown?
I would just like to remind everybody that there should not be stigma for mental health or mental illness. I think, remember, nothing different than physical health. And especially when it comes to suicide, it's not something that you really want to, keep hidden, because it's got really big consequences. Mm-hmm. So you really want to try to reach out and have people, contact people to make sure that that person can be okay.
Okay. Ms. Dallas?
Yeah, absolutely. Just summarize some of the important takeaway, I think, is just really, again, that vulnerability is a strength. Reaching out for help is something that is to be admired, and that we should also, I believe this is where, leading by example, to not shy away in every opportunity that we get as individuals, to all the listeners, to embrace that vulnerability rather than shut down from those conversations. And again, it's empowering for yourself. And this is really also how we foster resilience within ourselves and our children and our peers and friends. Resilience is something that we can build. It's a skill. it's a skill that builds. So it's not something that you just have or you don't. And that's important, I think, for our youth to know that as well, that this is something that can change with time, help, and support.
Indeed. And again, Dr. Borden, thank you so much, all.
Thank you as well.
Yes, and teaching you so much for coming on board, and look forward to our continual monthly discussions, and hopefully we build our resilience in our communities as we recognize the importance of being each other's keeper. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, to our listeners, going to pause and take a short break. When we come back, please rejoin us for more Talk Today.
Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for the 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National Bank, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
It's your time, Cayman Islands. Time to have your say. The Cayman opposition will be hosting community meetings to discuss the future of Cayman's cruise industry. Get the accurate industry figures and ensure you have your say. Does Cayman lag behind our competitors? What are the complaints from passengers? And are tenders workable? Get the truth and help ensure Cayman's future cruise industry remains bright. Phase 1 of the opposition island-wide meetings will take place at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October 2nd, Northside Civic Center. Wednesday, October 3rd, Buttontown Civic Center. And Thursday, October 4th, Savannah Primary School Hall. Phase 2 of the district meetings will be scheduled next week. It is your time, Cayman Islands. It is time to have your say. The Cayman opposition, safeguarding our future.
Not all insurance is created equal, but who has the time to shop around? Take the guesswork out of your insurance coverage with Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Let us match you with the best coverage to suit your needs at a price to suit your wallet. Plus, get superior customer service from dedicated claims professionals to ensure speedy claims processing. Get your insurance through Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Do you know that conditions may change suddenly in an emergency and you may have to leave at a moment's notice? When a hurricane threatens, you should have a grab-and-go survival kit. This kit should include your personal identification and other vital documents, which should be sealed in a watertight pouch or container. For more tips and information, visit the Hazard Management Cayman Islands office or caymanprepared.ky. This hurricane tip is brought to you by Hazard Management Cayman Islands and Radio Cayman 89.9 FM.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. I'm gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to.
Give me Jesus in the morning.
For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth sing glory to His name. Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, sea
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us. And in the studio, Miss Pamela Small joins us. And, last time you were here, it seemed like it was only yesterday. We were talking about it with Miss Amaya, but you continue to do great things, Miss Pam, and I'm honored to be able to. Yeah, Saturday was just...
Saturday was the show, Miss World Cayman Islands,
Miss World came on, so joining Miss Pamela Small is, and I said, the newly crowned...
Yeah, the newly crowned Miss World Cayman Islands,
yes. Miss Kelsey, it's a pleasure. But Miss Sam, take it away, share with us.
Yeah, so Kelsey won the crown on Saturday night. It was our inaugural pageant. As you know, last year we sent Chris and Amaya to Miss World, but we didn't have a pageant. We were able to select her because we only had 3 weeks to get her to Miss World when I got the franchise last year from the Miss World Limited, the Miss World company itself. Granted me the franchise, and we sent Kristen. This year, of course, we had to have a pageant. So we had a pageant on Saturday night with 4 beautiful and lovely young ladies. Very proud of all of them. Roseanne, Natisha, Kelsey, our winner, and Zarina. Hopefully they're listening. They all did a fabulous job on Saturday night, and Kelsey Woodman-Bodden came out as the winner. And I'll let her maybe...
Introduce to that.
Introduce herself. And
well, congrats again, Ms.
Thank you. Hi, Cayman. This is your new Miss World Cayman Islands 2018, and I can't wait to represent us in China in December. Thank you for having me today.
Well, first off, not just congratulations, but wish you a very safe, enjoyable trip. But it's a long flight away.
Yes,
but it'd be nice.
It will be a great experience. I know.
So Maya enjoyed it. Yeah,
she has tons of stories.
She has tons of stories. Now I understand, Miss Pam, the whole sort of theme for this year, and I won't ask Kelsey about her theme of wind in particular. How did we get there? But Miss Pam, from that perspective, the selection of a theme, how come?
Yeah, so our platform is the environment. We just preservation of the environment and just awareness. We want people to be aware of what they're doing and how we can make the environment better. So we came up with elements as our theme. So each contestant was an element. So for example, contestant number 1, Roseanne, was earth. Mm-hmm. Contestant number 2, Natisha, was fire. Number 3, Kelsey, was wind. And number 4, Zarina, was water. And so our opening number, and maybe Kelsey can speak a bit to this, but our opening number was very dramatic. And Kristen was in the center of all 4 of those elements, all 4 of the girls, the contestants, and she was kind of like in charge, like the mother,
like commanding us.
Yeah, like the commander of all the elements. That's what it was, the commander of all the elements. And we really have to say a thank you. I have to just say this here real quick to Center Point Dance Studio, Miss Sophia, Miss Anita. They came in as sponsors. We did rehearsal at their studios, and they choreographed everything. I mean, Miss Sophie is just amazing. She was our stage manager, and we brought kind of elements to life, and it was an amazing opening number. Her dancers got involved and helped us. They were great. These young girls that dance. I think they're between the ages of maybe 12 and
like
18.
15. I think like 15, 16.
And they were great. So yeah, we were very happy with the opening number, with the whole theme of elements. We didn't have any plastic at the show. We didn't give our drinks in plastic glasses. We actually bought glasses, rented glasses that we could use. And then we also had Junk was very kind, and they delivered some waste bins to us for plastic, for aluminum, for paper. So we didn't have a lot of waste. We tried hard not to have a lot of waste.
All right. The selection of wind as your element, was that yours, if I may ask you?
We didn't really select our element, but I had not a problem being wind, because I think, to me, wind, our air, is kind of the most important element. I think it's kind of the glue of all of the elements. Without some of the elements in air or wind itself, I don't think we would have fire or water. So
it takes oxygen to get the fire going.
Exactly.
Right? No, but that's the thing, and I had a chance to speak to 2 of my friends who attended Saturday then, and they thoroughly enjoyed it, and not just because they're passionate, about pageants and they're enthusiastic, but to see the presentation, the choreography, to see the opportunities afforded to the young ladies, what it could mean for Cayman, but the inspiration for others as well.
Yeah, of course, and we have to thank, when you talk about that, we have to thank the Cayman Islands government. We owe them lots right now. They actually awarded Kelsey the winner with a 4-year scholarship.
which was just amazing for us to get. We'd been asking for it, and Mr. Austin Harris was instrumental in getting that for us. Miss Juliana O'Connor-Connolly also. And I just want to thank them publicly. Mr. David White was also there to present it, and Austin was there to speak on behalf of the government, and we were very appreciative of that. That means a lot to us.
Yeah. I think many people who were probably only, like some of us, only sit in the audience and very jubilantly cheer on the pageantry for the evening, but it's a lot that goes in, Ms. Kelsey, the preparation.
Oh, wow, yeah. About 10 weeks of prep, actually. Yeah. So
and with Pam as a taskmaster.
You had a great coach, great committee.
Yep. Yeah. Now, going forward.
So what's next? So right now, she's doing media appearances today. She's been on this morning. She was on radio now again, and then this afternoon she's on Cayman 27. Also, before I forget this, the show was actually recorded by Cayman Life TV, which is on Logic TV channel 33. It's going to be aired on Sunday at 6. So we'd like everybody to watch it if you missed it live. We didn't tell anyone this till now because we want you to come to the show, but that's okay. So it'll be on Logic TV channel 33 on Sunday. And thanks to Cayman Life for sponsoring us and helping us with that. It means a lot to us. April, who's also with Radio Cayman, I believe. So so she did a bunch of media appearances today. On Saturday, she'll be at the Breast Cancer Gala, greeting guests. Thanks to them. They always support us, and we always support them. Kristen also helped with them in her this past year. And then we just prepare for Miss World. So we've got a lot of preparation to do. She's got training. She's going to head to New York on behalf of her work, but we're going to take advantage of that, thanks to PwC. And we're going to do a little bit of training with her and try to get her some clothing. We still need a little bit of donations. We did well at this show, but of course, there's a lot of expense involved in getting her to Miss World. The ticket alone is,
that's
to China, yeah.
But the experience, the exposure, the opportunity to be able to not just serve as an ambassador for Cayman, but for future endeavor. Exactly. Yes. Ms. Kelsey, she's just right there. Tell us about it. What are some of the things you're looking forward to? How do you see it? Share with us. I'm excited.
Well, I've always been a pageant girl, and I always knew that I wanted to be Miss Cayman and represent my island overseas internationally and also be a great role model. So for me, this is definitely a dream come true. And I worked my entire life almost to come up to this moment. I made sure that I went to university, I went to college, and I was always the best me that I could be. So when I was to enter Miss World Cayman Islands, there wasn't much training that I needed in terms of being polished, that I was already good to go kind of a thing.
If I can, and Ms. Palmer, defer to you both for guidance and instruction, but for people to start to appreciate, over the years I've had a chance to interact with many of our contestants. Some of us don't appreciate that there's a lot of incredible effort and sacrifice with the training. But as you come to this stage, you come in, as you shared, Ms. Kelsey, with these credentials already, not just the community service, but your academics. Could we ask, maybe share with us a little bit about you for those who are maybe you want to listen? In particular, I always emphasize education.
Well, we should know our Miss Cayman anyway, right? Our Miss World Cayman. So let's get to know her.
Yes.
So I grew up in Spots, and I went to public school my entire year. So I went to Red Bay Primary School, John Gray High School, and then after that I decided to go to university and studied accounting at the University of Tampa. I was always very active in the community. In high school, I actually won the Save Our Youth Foundation Award for being the most active in high school and being involved in Key Club, Business Club, just the president of Key Club, actually, and just always wanting to help out. And then as I went to university in Tampa, I was able to get involved in the Tampa Bay community as well. So being involved is something that's always been something of passion to me. I really think it's important. I think it's the only way that our country can run really smoothly. The government can only do so much, but we need to help out as well. So that's a little bit about me. I love fitness. I also have a blog that I use. I started it when I was in university because a few ladies reached out to me, because I think the biggest change is when you go from high school to becoming an adult all of a sudden. It's like, well, I need to go to college, or do I want to just work? So they kind of reached out to me and they said, well, how did you apply for scholarships? How did you decide you wanted to do accounting? So that's kind of some stuff that you can see on my blog, and that's a bit about me.
And that's the thing, too, as we look at that, all of our young people, but I respectfully say our young ladies in particular, need to have positive role models.
Yes,
Miss
they
Palm,
do, yeah.
these ladies, I think, are very, very fortunate to have someone like you
Yes,
guide
thank
them.
you. Thank you. It's funny, though. My mentor in college was actually a male.
Yeah.
Was actually my boss at the time at CUC, Arden McLean, and I always say this, and he's such a good guy. I mean,
This fella's here too much time.
Him and I, yeah. No, but I mean, you always have to have someone to guide you and help you. I mean, of course, you have your parents there, and that's great. And I mean, they're great. Of course, your parents are always great. But it's good to have someone else there to guide you and help you. And I mean, all we want to do as a committee and as a pageant is help these girls, mentor them, train them, make them better, make them more prepared for the world, more prepared for college, more prepared for their careers. And then if they enter Miss World Cayman, that's great too. But and we want them to. But we have a program called Girl Power, which I introduced at the pageant. And Girl Power is the company, the non-for-profit company. We just got our non-for-profit status last week. So it's a non-for-profit company that runs the Miss World Cayman Islands pageant. So we're having a program called Girl Power with where we're inviting girls between the ages of 15 and 25 to be involved in the program, where we're going to mentor them and train them, because our goal is to have a Miss World one day, is to have a winner of Miss World. I mean, it's great that we're going and we're showing up and so forth, but we want to be able to compete with these 100 girls from all over the world,
And we can do it.
And having those academics like Kelsey has is definitely a positive thing. Miss World is all about intelligence, and they're all about just being involved in your community. So I think we have a great chance with Kelsey.
Well, listen, I commend you for it, and I keep saying to our community, especially our young people, our young ladies in particular, we don't know the intellect, the ambition that they have. We don't respect our history and our heritage. That little statue that we see there, that's to me the most, certainly one of the most important statues, because it's
very
not.
Important.
It is. With you, Miss Kelsey, as you prepare and you go off to China, it's great. Beyond that, no. When we come back from a break, maybe share with us a little bit more of future endeavors. I mean, the next premiere, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. Hey, yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, a few more minutes, opportunity to share with us. So please stay tuned. We'll talk today.
Tune in Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Exclusive. Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca.
The Super Jam Show is fueled by the proud sponsorship of Fitness Plus and Train with Dre.
Get top-rated personal training or build your very own home or office gym today.
The 2018 Fall Labor Force Survey is currently being conducted by the Economics and Statistics Office ESO. The LFS collects data on the employed and unemployed persons. Trained interviewers with ESO ID cards will visit the randomly selected households in all districts. The interviews are confidential in accordance with the statistics law. No individual data will be published or disclosed. Survey data are exempt from freedom of information. For more details, please call the ESO hotline at 516-3329.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. If you want to be a part of a discussion, Ms. Pamela Ebanks Small, together with the reigning, the current, the newly crowned.
The newly crowned, Saturday night, Kelsey Budd,
All right, Miss World Cayman.
Yes.
And, promise you we'll be with you in spirit. Some of us will be there in person as you travel to China. But
I hope I can be. I'm trying.
Yeah, well, I hope that you get, because it's good to have company, not just as a chaperone, but wait a minute, did you see where my bag went to?
Help with all the gowns and the travel, the suitcases.
It's a lot. It's a lot. If I can, with the greatest respect, what was it like preparing for it? What was it like being, on the evening
Well, preparing for the pageant, we had about 10 weeks, which is to some not much time, but for us, we had really great coaches, and they really pushed us to be prepared and be the best that we can on the day. So I'm very happy that everything ran pretty smoothly, and thank you to Toastmasters. I was able to be really calm on the night, because I know it's the question that always gets everyone. So the day of, I just tried to stay calm. If I ever felt nerves coming on, I kind of just went into a power pose, and I was like, Kelsey, you don't think good when you're nervous, so you just have to stay calm so that once the question comes, you can just answer it. So that's what I did, and I think it was pretty successful.
Again, I ask you first, respond if it's okay. The question, what do you think of it? If it's okay with Pam, I mean, it's...
Oh, well, she's been asked that already, so,
well,
so she can go ahead and say...
What do you think? I mean,
I thought it was a great question, seeing that our platform is the environment. I'm not sure if you're aware what the question was.
Yeah, it was, should only West Bay's be premier? No, that was not the question.
I would say yes if I was me answering that.
Sorry, that was not the question.
I'm just kidding.
Mr. McLaughlin's going looking now, boy.
Uh-oh. Prospect, who knows?
Yes.
So for our platform being the environment, I thought it was a really great question, because it's something that everyone should know about, and especially us girls who are vying to be the next Miss World, because we need to know about the environment, and if we're going to be promoting it, we need to be able to answer these questions as well.
And that's the thing that I think some of us who gradually become perhaps more informed appreciate with Miss World, the focus on education, academics, that opportunity to be positive, change agents in our society.
And Miss World's a little different. Like I said, I mean, they focus on intelligence. The current Miss World from India is a medical doctor. It's beauty, but beauty from the inside. Right? And I always say that, we're all beautiful. We can put on a little bit of makeup and then we look more beautiful. So it's really beauty on the inside, and it's about community work. Miss World is beauty with a purpose. So what are you doing in your community to help your community? And we did a lot of that these last 10 weeks. We did Meals on Wheels. We helped plastic free. We did an environmental tour. We went to the lodge where they're recycling. They have a 3D printer and they're recycling plastic right there. We went to Ambassadors of the Environment, where we learned about what they're doing at the Ritz-Carlton, as well as a shark conservation. So we learned a lot. I mean, I myself learned a lot, and I took my 11-year-old daughter with me who loves dealing with, stuff about the environment, and she learned a great deal herself. So that's exactly what we're trying to do, just educate these girls so that when they attend Miss World, they're much more equipped and they're ready to go. So that's what Girl Power is all about, just getting young girls involved.
Indeed, and as you shared, recognizing that it's, you put it, beauty with a purpose. I think we need to start to get in this era the importance of being able to, and not just empower, but make our young leaders, our students, independent thinkers, critical thinkers, commenters, but also actors in making a difference. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255 if you want to join the discussion. Welcome, Ms. Susan Sneakin. Are we ready for a call? Are we going to a break? Again, girl power, right?
Let's get a call. Let's do this.
I've got to make sure that I pay attention to the women.
But one thing about Miss World, as we wait on a call, is that they're a little different. I mean, they have a sports segment. They have a top model. There's no swimsuit. We did top model. We did sports. And then I either show them when we did top models, the girls actually posed in a swimsuit and then also in a 50s outfit. But yeah, it's a little different, and we're just trying to show that pageantry, again, is not just about beauty of the face. It's about a lot of other things: intelligence, community work, mentoring, and helping young people.
The things that make a difference, because as not just a parent, but as a mother in particular, you're all these things almost simultaneously. You're rushing to get ready to work, so you have to present yourself in a...
I know all about this.
And Ms. Kelsey, as we go to the break, when we come back, for sure, maybe some of the things you share with our listeners, our mothers in particular, but also our young ladies, about how to present themselves, how to prepare themselves while they're in high school, when they're going off to university, if they're there, as they go into their lives, as they will consider, becoming part of the Miss World Cayman pageantry, and what they can do, whether it's in politics and policy making, whether it's in their profession or otherwise, so that they can see the importance of their efforts. Would that be fine?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
All right. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We invite you to stay tuned. Join us after the break.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
With your latest headlines, I'm April Cummings. On the heels of a public meeting hosted by the Ministry of Tourism about the proposed cruise pier for Georgetown, the official opposition kicks off its own series of district meetings on the issue tomorrow night at the Northside Civic Center starting at 7:30 p.m. In international headlines, as Indonesian officials began burying hundreds of dead in a mass grave today, thousands of survivors of a devastating earthquake and tsunami converged on the airport in Palu and clamored to leave, saying there was little to eat and their homes were unsafe. The confirmed death toll of 844, mostly from the city of Palu, is expected to rise as authorities reach areas that were cut off by the disaster. The magnitude 7.5 earthquake struck at dusk Friday and generated a tsunami said to have been as high as 60 meters in places. The International Court of Justice has ruled against Bolivia in its dispute with neighboring Chile over access to the Pacific Ocean. It's a feud dating back to the late 19th century. According to BBC, landlocked Bolivia lost access to the sea in 1884 after a war with Chile and has tried to regain it ever since. The court said Chile was not obliged to negotiate granting Bolivia access. The ruling, which comes after 5 years of deliberations, is final and binding. And researchers from the U.S. and Japan won the Nobel Prize in Medicine today for discoveries that can help the body marshal its cellular troops to attack invading cancers. One cancer doctor said that an untold number of lives have been saved by the science that was pioneered. James Allison of the University of Texas and Tasuku Honjo of Kyoto University will share the $1 million prize for 2018. Their parallel work concerned proteins that act as brakes on the body's immune system. Those are your headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom. I'm April Cummings.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon, and in the studio, Miss Pamela Ebanks, as we talk about Miss World Cayman and the reigning. The rain, Miss World
Saturday
Cayman.
night, yeah.
And it's something that I think if you would allow me to share, not just my own pride, but the promise that this society has, when we look at not just the potential, Ms. Kelsey, that you exhibit, but also the successes you've had, thus far. And I think that's a lot for us to be able to celebrate. Hopefully it will inspire so many more of us and to recognize, as I said, the first guy who ran, 100 meters in 10 seconds. It was possible. Up until then, I'm not sure. Once something is done, the table has been, set. You can always raise the bar, but it has to be set, right?
Exactly.
All right. For you, if I may ask, Ms. Kelsey, certainly going to ask what next, but now for that mother and parent, father as well, who's listening, to encourage your children, or daughters in particular, whether they're in high school, going off to university, they're in their careers and they're working. What do you say today?
I would say the two most important things are mentorship and confidence. If you're not 100% sure what you want to do, find a mentor, talk to someone, figure it out. I know there's people at my university that started their degree as undeclared. So they got to kind of see everything and see, okay, well, I want to be a marine biologist because I don't want to do business like I thought I wanted to do. So just trying to find your ground, find your feet, because I know it is a really big decision and college is expensive. So to do 4 years and end up not wanting to do that is not something that you would want to do in the long run. But I would also say just be confident. Be confident in whatever you do. That will take you a long way. Speak up. If you ever do what I did on Saturday, if you ever get nervous, just go into a power pose real quick and it will help you.
I'm about to try that. I like that.
No, but those are things that we can. I mean, my uncle always said, mind over matter. Present yourself mentally, so you're grounded, you're sound. Having that mentor that can help you figure things out, be that sounding board, guide you, nurture you. I know Mr. McLean, as you shared.
Yeah.
I joke with him sometimes, and he is amazing. He's heavily invested in our young people, wanting to encourage them. He served as that, not just a sounding
mentor
board.
for me. Yeah, I mean, I worked for him, and he pushed me to go to college.
Yeah.
So.
Which is important, and that's what we need, right, Ms.
Exactly.
Kelsey? Someone who believes in you, who's going to be supportive in every which way, but can I say this? And I'll give you that little nudge. I was going to say a kick.
Exactly.
A little nudge to, hey, come on now, let's get going.
You can do it. Yeah.
With that in mind, though, for that individual who is looking at continuing studies and isn't sure, well, very, very good at what, almost everything that she turns her hand to. And she says, okay, well, maybe I'll be a lawyer, a doctor, a teacher, an accountant, talk show host. What do you say to that person? As you experiment in university with different subjects, find your grounding, what would you say?
I would say at the end of the day, I think success is just being happy in whatever you do. So find something that 10 years from now that you would be happy doing that. And also remember that it's okay to start over. If you do just go into a career and you decide that that's not what's for you, it's fine to start over. I have a friend who studied accounting like me. She became an auditor. After she passed her CPA, she was like, I want to be law. I want to go into law. So that's what she did, and nothing is wrong with that. You just, at the end of the day, have to make sure that you are happy.
And it's complementary too. Right? I mean, who knows where she'll end up and what type of practice, whether she's in the financial sector or otherwise. Now, you reference, your interest and involvement in pageantry from early on. Respectfully, Ms. Palm, there are some ladies, perhaps because of aunts and mothers and others who've been exposed and introduced and always wanted, and then there's some going, how does that work? Do you always want it?
Well,
Don't want it? I mean,
pageantry, it's built me. So I myself love pageantry. It's made me become the woman that I am today. I mean, I must say I attribute a lot of my success to pageantry. I'm a vice president at Logic, and I always seem to be the only female if I go to meetings. So a lot of meetings that I'm in. So I don't think pageantry is for everybody. I mean, sprinting is not for me. If you ask me to run 100 meter, it won't look good. So it's just, there's certain things for certain people. I have heard of bad experiences with pageants, and I think it's maybe how they're organized or what they're all about. And that's why Miss World is so important to us. Miss World is about intelligence. It's about working within your community, beauty with a purpose. And so we mimic that. I mean, we had a sports segment, which we did a couple of weeks ago at the Truman Bodden Sports Complex. So the girls had to be very athletic, and they had to do things like hula hooping and swimming and sprinting. And then we had the top model segment, because Miss World doesn't do swimsuit anymore. We did have the girls parade in swimsuit during the top model segment, but it was more about their modeling skills than it was their bodies. So I think if people understand what pageantry is all about, they may be more supportive of it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change kind of the outlook of pageantry. Because when I call people to get sponsorship, sometimes I'm being told, and from some companies, we don't sponsor pageants. And I'm like, how can you say, like, blanket, you don't sponsor pageants? Like, I don't understand. So maybe those companies had a bad experience. Maybe they've heard something they should not have heard or something. And I would like to really, speak to them and really show them what we're doing as a pageant. It's about developing young women into better young women, to become better leaders, to become more confident. And when Kelsey mentioned mentoring and confidence, I think that's great. When she mentioned that earlier, confidence doesn't just come to you. It has to be built within you. And for it to be built within you, and I think about my daughters when I say this, you have to have people around you telling you you're doing a good job, telling you look nice. So every time I'm on the radio, I always say to everybody out in Cayman, whoever's listening, we must support our queens. We must support our young people. We must support our daughters, our sons. Because the more positive things you say to them, it builds that confidence. Confidence isn't just there. So when people see Kelsey, when everyone out there is listening, and when you see Kelsey on the road or you see her pass by, say something to her positive. Say, you look great today, Kelsey. You're doing a great job. That helps so much, especially when they're going away to compete against over 119 women from all over the world, So
it can be, and I commend you for that. I take a similar approach with our young people, that you encourage them, not falsely.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're going somewhere and your hair isn't done, or your shirt isn't,
help them out.
Yeah, help them out.
Yeah,
Don't tell them it looks okay.
No, help them out.
But respectfully share with them,
Yeah.
so that our presentation. Now, with that, Ms. Kelsey, there's some of us who, how politely I can say this, some of us, we confuse confidence and arrogance.
Yes.
We believe that, style is more important than substance.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you're not one of those. But how do we get a person to understand? Listen, if you're gonna bark, make sure you have a good bite.
There's a fine line, but I'll let Kelsey speak to it.
I think the main thing is just ensuring that you have an open mind. And I think the easiest way or the quickest way to do that is to travel. I find that I've been to 12 countries, and I find that traveling has really opened my mind to a lot of things. The way that we do something in Cayman isn't the only way that you do something. Things that we eat in Cayman isn't the only thing that you eat. There's so many different ways to do stuff, and just having an open mind and being willing to listen to other people, I think will really help with that confidence versus arrogance. So I would say one of the main things is travel, and if you can't travel, just read. Reading opens your mind as well.
That's it, man. And Ms. Palmer, I must commend you for it, because
thank you.
You have an opportunity not just to mentor and to nurture, but within these young ladies to create a cohort of wonderful young people who serve as great role models, in particular for our young daughters or young sisters.
And who we hope will be, better Caymanians, who will help, our industry, our financial industry. I mean, Kelsey's in the financial industry as an accountant, who will help our tourism industry, who will just come back and do really good, be really well in their careers and their education. And that's all we're all about, just doing those things.
Well, hopefully that our corporate community, generally speaking, will continue not only to be good corporate citizens with their scholarships and supporting charitable endeavors, but be able to give our young people an opportunity to pursue opportunities like this. You have the obligations to work and family, but sometimes there's that balance so that you can be away building better experiences, a better repertoire, so when you come back, you can be a better contributor.
Yeah. And I just wanted to take a moment to say a thank you to our sponsors for our pageant. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So Ogier is our official legal advisors to our pageant. Deloitte was our official auditors. Centerpoint Dance, that was the stage manager, and they pretty much choreographed, the whole production. They did such a good job. Miss Sophie, Miss Anita. Logic, HF Funds, F45 Training, Simon Photography, Bogle Insurance, Rock Gorgeous Hair, Back to Health, Cayman Life TV, Toastmasters, DMS Broadcasting, Beyond Basics, Jake Scott, Beautiful Nails, Radio Cayman, Beauty Crush Makeup Bar, Joelle Lawson, and our contestant sponsors were Imagine Cayman, Exterior Painting, Kirkconnell Limited, and I will let Kelsey say her pageant sponsor, who she's very thankful for.
Yes, my pageant sponsor was Pro Solar Systems, and I'm so thankful for his support and their support. They came out to the motorcade. They made sure that they were at anything that I was at. So I am 100% thankful for them and their support. Even up to today, he messaged me and he was like, "Good luck on your interview." So,
and also people who took part in the pageant. Dwayne is our host, Ruth Anna Young and Lloyd Barker. They did an excellent job on Saturday night, and I just want to say thank you to them. We had a bunch of people who participated in the show. Ashlyn Evans, Mr. Blake Rogers, who did the voiceover for us. Cayman Empirical Beauties, Centerpoint Dance Company, their dancers. Miss Cayman Islands Universe and Miss Teen Cayman Islands, as well as the Williams Quartet and Jaden Hannah. They also performed. So
it was a wonderful evening, from what I understand from my friends who attended. But it just shows you that this community is looking forward to great things.
They're supportive, yes. And we thank them. We thank the community too, of course.
Yeah. Well, we thank people like you, Ms. Palm. You always inspiring, and as you said, you may be the only female at some of those meetings, but you're certainly
sometimes. Yeah.
All right. Any perhaps closing words from you?
Sure. I just want to say thank you to Cayman, thank you to Radio Cayman for supporting us, and I am excited for my reign, and I hope that the support continues. I know it will.
It will. Yes. Spam, the invitation is always public, but you're always welcome to come back and share with us.
Thanks for having us. Thank you for seeing the importance of pageantry and for all the support that we got on Saturday night. We were more than grateful for everyone that showed up and that just, made phone calls to us and encouraged us and encouraged Kelsey and all the contestants. We wanted to say a special hi to Roseanne and Natisha and Zarina, who are still Kelsey's pageant sisters. So they did a great job.
All right. Well, congrats again. Not just on, being crowned, but also on your success to date. May you continue to walk in grace and favor and, achieve great things as we expect of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's
pause and take a short break. When we come back, why don't we close things up with some open line? Stay tuned for Talk Today.
We need to talk. Okay. We've noticed you've been going to KFC a lot more than usual lately. And
that's fine. We know you love it.
We just don't understand how you can afford it.
The KFC What a Deal menu starting at just $3.50 gives you lots of great choices and value. Available at KFC Baytown Plaza, Shudden Road, and in the Strand. The KFC What a Deal value menu. The deal everyone should know about. Come to KFC and enjoy a variety of tasty choices at surprising prices. KFC, so good.
Did you hear that Vant Motors has your sale going on now? And you get your choice on the money you'll save on your new car or truck?
My sale? My choice? Really?
Yeah, and they have lots of cars on sale, some up to $7,000 off.
Sounds pretty good.
It gets even better. You can choose to take the full discount or you can get some or all of it as cash back.
Extra cash back would be great.
Exactly. And you can even use the savings to extend your warranty or service plan so you'll drive worry-free for years longer.
Another good idea.
If you want to upgrade with something like a new roof rack or backup camera, you can choose that too.
Wow, I get to choose?
Yeah, that's why it's your sale, your choice. Going on now at Vant Motors on Walkers Road, while stocks last.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote.
Talk today.
But I do have some questions.
Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. And again, a special. Not just thanks, but acknowledgement to all of the parents, the coaches, whether they're of sport or otherwise, those who serve as mentors or teachers, and others who continue to not only inspire, but encourage, nurture. I trust that they'll do so. Only providing a safe environment, but be supported by the rest of us as we build a stronger, healthier, more productive, prosperous, socially harmonious and stable society. To Miss Palmer and Miss Kelsey, congrats. I understand from my friends who attended, it was a wonderful evening of pageantry, but it also promises great things that lie ahead as we continue to empower and to build future citizens of Caymanians who are making this country that much better. Hey, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We'll have some open line as we invite you to share your thoughts with us. I know a number of you have, not just during today's production, but certainly all morning and even throughout the weekend. Sharing your thoughts in relation to the port, to a number of the other things. Some have been questioning, we've had these fires, and yes, we've been getting regular updates from our officials relative to the cause. And I think one good thing was that the fire service, at least the comments I've received, have been highly praised, not only their responsiveness, but their competence, their vigilance. So that's very encouraging. But of course, other comments have come through relative to how do we make sure that what we're doing is indeed the very best that we can do. Now, with respect to the port, if there were a list of questions and you're looking at, they seem to be increasing. Some have been political, without question. Some have been an opportunity, as posed by others, to sort of, as one fellow would paraphrase, get the government on its back foot, as it were. But as one young lady shared, her concern is that it seems to be a discussion that's become more political than it has become, as she puts it, productive. And unfortunately, as she shared, the next election will be the first time she will be voting. She just missed the cutoff, she says, the last time around. But in that ensuing period, she's now had a number of opportunities to continue her further studies. she looks at some, not just the subjects she's taking at university level or the things that have been unfolding within her own profession. She sees that there are many people her age, some a little bit younger, who are equally engaged and involved and are trying to determine, how do we make the Cayman of tomorrow that much better. She shared that as she attended the meeting as held by the tourism minister and deputy premier, she thought there were a few things that unfortunately, to her mind, weren't answered. Things that perhaps that were shared that may have been, more productive if they were shared in a different format. Instead of the presentation the way it was, she thought perhaps there could have been more of a, as she puts it, a round table meeting where you had less confrontation and perhaps more dialogue. But she said it was encouraging and productive, and it shows what the populace can achieve should the populace decide to get engaged and involved and hold the politicians to task. But equally, those of us who are part of our community and need to be willing to step up and be accountable for what we say and do, and equally for what we refrain from doing. She gave us an example that following the meeting, she was listening to family and friends and co-workers and the like talk over the last few days. She thought, well, why didn't you ask that question? Why didn't you share that comment? There are so many ways. Why are we so reluctant to question? She understands that there are some of us who may impose a sense of censoring what we share simply because we are fearful that we may suffer some repercussions. But if there's anything she said that she has come to embrace and appreciate, is that in our society, if we're not willing to be accountable for what we say, stand and share what needs to be said, then our society can't progress. It can't be healthy. It can't be democratic. As this young lady shares, her desire isn't necessarily to be politically, involved as a candidate, but certainly politically engaged if it means that things get on the agenda, or those things that are on the agenda, that they get fleshed out. Now, listening to what she shared was not only refreshing and encouraging, but certainly it means that our future generation of voters and our political hopefuls will be people who are looking to continually raise the bar. Now, when I listened to her views, the fact that she was able to speak in a way that didn't seem to be personal or vitriolic, didn't seem to be pandering to one side or the other, that sort of freedom and confidence with which she was sharing was very encouraging. Now, hopefully, it speaks to the environments that we're creating within our society amongst our young people. It also speaks to perhaps that ability and confidence that we are developing within our own young people. But equally, perhaps it speaks to that acknowledgement that they are now not just expecting, but they're demanding greater things from us as the political directorate, as the civil society, as the business community. That it shouldn't, as she shared, only or exclusively be about how much money is going to be spent or how much profits are going to be made, or not even, she says, what are the environmental factors to consider, but what are the simple factors as social implications? What are some of the other things that may not be as tangible but yet are significantly important? We may consider the impact of traffic congestion on whether roads are open or closed, whether lands are developed or the like. But then how will a society be impacted by increased labor in one sector, or the provision of other services, or even the withdrawal or provision of other things? Hey, what are your thoughts as we draw to an end for today's program? 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. If you want to, you can send us your WhatsApp, 925-3261. Either way, we take your calls, have you share your thoughts with us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. It is, without question, very encouraging to see, many of our young people, those, who are perhaps new to the electoral register, those who are very eagerly anticipating coming of age to be able to get registered to vote, whether the election is as scheduled, whether it's postponed, whether it's early, to see young people actively engaged in civil society. But equally, those young students who are still in high school, who may have a year or 2 or 4 or more before they graduate, and to hear them speak of their future endeavors, the things that they would want. Now, it is perhaps important to share that many of those, as much as they will desire to want to remain in Cayman, to contribute to Cayman, some have expressed concerns that there may not be job opportunities in Cayman. There may not be the society that their parents or grandparents knew, that they may be, inclined or perhaps in their minds feel obligated to leave our shores in order to make a living, not just to pursue tertiary education, but perhaps to be able to find employment, an opportunity. Now, as one young fellow shared with us this morning, as the young lady was sharing, he said that he found that once he finished university and he came back and he got involved with his profession, got involved with his company and participated whether in the social programs that the company put together as part of their team building exercises, or they got involved with some of the other community initiatives, the professional organizations, and personal development that was required. He found that the more he exhibited this desire to learn and to contribute, perhaps from some quarters, he was being perceived as having ulterior motives. And he thought, well, why is it that if you're in your own country, or the country that you've adopted as your home, and you're trying to make it better, why can't those efforts be seen for what they're worth and making the society better, as opposed to having some ulterior motive? Now, perhaps it's the mentality of a small community. Perhaps it's the mindset of small-minded people, as he shared. But he's saying, what if at the end of the day, that is a perception that is shared by more people than we acknowledge, and it causes others to, instead of contributing publicly, they instead keep to themselves out of fear that they too may become mislabeled. 8949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, you can always WhatsApp 925-3261. If you've been with us at the start of the program, you had a chance to be with a discussion in relation to suicide in particular. We certainly trust that what we shared reminds you that there are things we can do, that there are not only free resources, but great resources available within our community. And if there are any concerns, if you need information in order to perhaps be properly equipped or better prepared or more confident in having that conversation with family or with friend or with co-worker, or even if you yourself is perhaps feeling a certain I guess as I say, a certain way, that don't be dismissive, don't play it down, don't by any means deny yourself the opportunity to avail yourself of the resources that are within our community, whether it's through the Health Services Authority or the Counseling Center, as the government provides that free service, or one of the private practitioners. Certainly ensure that you get that assistance that you need, and don't allow others to stigmatize you. Don't feel that there's any sense of label or stigma or otherwise that would deny you an opportunity to look after your health, whether it's your mental or physical health. 949-8037 is the number we offer you, together with our toll-free 949-534-8255, or you can WhatsApp 925-3261. enjoy the rest of today. May the week be very productive. Certainly come back for all of our programming here at Radio Cayman as we endeavor to make it as engaged, as informed, as involved as we can. Tomorrow we have a few things in store for you, including an opportunity to speak with our cardiologist over at the Health Services Authority, Dr. Kriegel. That will be at the latter part of our program. As we always share with you, be productive, be engaged, be involved, and above all, be blessed.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.